All right. And this way, we have some more. We have some, some different ones right here. Okay, so these are vines that are quite exotic looking, and their flowers are pretty cool too. The flowers of these plants are really interesting, and they are, it's like some dark yellow flowers. Okay. And over here is the elephant one right here. We got the elephant one right here. You see how dark green it is. It's very enchanting. And you see, I started over. I didn't know if there was some issue with connection or not, and I can't really check at the moment, so I'm just doing it through the dark like this. And yeah, so this is kind of a different plant than what we usually see. This is another tree. It's not the type of tree we usually see, but it's a tree. All right. So the Ebians are from Serpo. That is where those come from. They seem to be better stories about the Ebians, but although the way they handled one of the cases was not really too nice with one of the travelers, one of the astronauts that were with them. So that is something else that is true. All right, and yeah, speaking before about the Frankenstein story is that, which is, we were talking about cryptids. So the type of cryptid that I think is pretty cool is the Frankenstein thing, because it was a type of, it was created in a laboratory, and people believed it was something very bizarre and a monster that needed to be taken down. And the fact that it was able to be created with body parts from those that were not alive anymore, that was quite interesting how they were able to do that, because scientifically it's impossible with the technology we have now. So there could even be a supernatural element to it. But anyway, that is kind of like what I think with a lot of cryptids. Some of them might have been created as hybrids, and then the hybrids were able to come out, like Mothman, there's Dogman, there's Lizardman. All the different cryptids and hybrids, I think, did come from possible experiments from aliens or humans, similar to the Frankenstein concept. So that is what I think, because last night we were talking about the cryptids and those things, and I think for sure that may be true. Right. And for those that are curiosity about the different thoughts on those things, because usually I talk about the cryptids and I talk about those type of creatures, and they are, either from fallen angels and humans, or there's some kind of creature on Earth that we're not completely familiar with. But yeah, they could have also been from an experiment. That's another possibility. And yeah, that is definitely what I think. So, and this is a right here kind of, those are the flowers that I talked to y'all about. Those yellow ones that are orange. And well, it's orange middle with white petals. Yeah, that one definitely is the one I was referring to. So anyway, with the cryptids, that's what I'm starting to think. So a lot of those fairy tales, there's symbolism in it, and they're usually very dark. And the reason why they're dark is because it is, trying to tell a parable of some kind, and they kind of made it different for the young people's movies. So yeah, the argument here is that I'm using the Frankenstein story as a metaphorical reasoning for some cryptids that allegedly exist that people talk about. That it could have been an experiment by a human, like a laboratory or an alien, and it broke out and went rogue. So, yeah. And maybe there's some sort of technologies that we don't know about. Maybe there's some sort of technologies we're not completely familiar with. Now that is something very odd. It's a pink vine. I've never seen that before. And it is, I'm not too sure if it's a type of fungus, because we were looking at the other plants, and the clover plants, they had this clover rust on them. Now this is one of the regular vines we've seen in the other yard, and this is pink. It's quite peculiar. I can't even speak English properly, so peculiar. Anyway, so that is something quite fascinating. Yeah. So with those, and has anyone ever seen a cryptid or an alien, any kind of UFO or paranormal sightings? I'm interested to hear about it. But yeah, so new theory is that some things are experimental. Hey, bro, UAP. Great to have you here, bro. You know what? The other phone that I have that I didn't completely transfer yet, for the first time, it went out, and it's going to be interesting. Oh, hello there, Ukraine. Welcome to the stream. Hope all is good. Hope everything's going good with you. And UAP says, yeah, so it went out. I put it in the charger thing, and it was very low, but it just didn't go right. And it's, hey, Tone. Great. Welcome back. Hello, dudes. Welcome to the stream. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that I put it in the wrong way, and I'm going to have to do this other thing to charge it. So that is something funny that happened to me earlier, but it's all good, and we're in this different part of the garden right now. I appreciate all of you here. Yeah, I know, UAP, I know. Hello, Tone. What I'm talking about is the Frankenstein story, because last night you and I were talking a very good conversation about cryptids, and I was thinking that, some of the cryptids, which I think you've brought up to me, and we've kind of talked about in the show before, but that a lot of the cryptids we see are from possible experiments, either from aliens or from humans, and they got out. That's when I was talking earlier about the Frankenstein monster is an example of that. Like, people would think that the Frankenstein monster would be a cryptid, and people were trying to destroy it, but it was created in a laboratory first, and it went rogue. And it was kind of made supernaturally, because so far we're not able to reconstruct humans out of the deleted flesh, or at least that's what they say. So I think that concept is extremely intriguing, and that maybe something like that really was going on, and that's the explanation for all those things. And for those that are tuning in, yeah, we're looking at this thing right here, which is a vine that is pink, some sort of a fungus. You know what, bud? It could be a leprechaun. That is true. And, leprechauns, for instance, I think is a type of cryptid. And there are different civilizations that talked about leprechauns. I'm not denying that I can make up a story. A fictional character doesn't exist right now. Okay, I'm not saying that people are making up things, or there's fictional characters that people were pretending to be real. But I do think leprechauns is a type of cryptid. Many civilizations talk about them. Besides Ireland and the United Kingdom, their own version of a leprechaun. So I do think the leprechauns, would be an interdimensional being, or a type of fallen angel creature, or something that's related to them, maybe, or some sort of magical. There's a lot of these magical beings, I think, in my opinion, may come from them. As I already was talking about cryptids before, about, okay, cryptids might be something from another dimension. They might be something from Earth we don't quite understand. But now I'm thinking maybe it could also be something from an experiment. So, yeah. That is my point to make for tonight. Because and they're all men. You know, there's the Wolf Man, there's the Mothman, the Lizard Man. They're all men. So whatever these creatures are, they're all male. And yeah, I think, you know, Atone says true, true. I believe some of not all cryptids are most likely experiments gone bad, like the Frankenstein. Ah, thank you. Okay, Tone, you're on the same page. All right, understood. Yeah, I definitely agree with you 100% with everything you said, because it's like it could, you know, there could be things that are fake or made up, or some things that might be real and made in a laboratory. The El Tupracabra. All right, the Tupracabra is this goat-sucking creature that looks kind of like a dog with spikes on it. It's kind of like supernatural looking. That could have been, if real, that could, let's say it was some sort of creature. All right. And the reason why the creature is with the goat blood, that's what it does, right? So it drinks the goat's blood, and it's like a dog thing with spikes, and it seems like it has supernatural abilities. That could have been made in a laboratory, or one of the other options that we were checking off the list, because what I'm doing personally is thinking about what can be created in a laboratory. You know, I mean, the platypus is kind of crazy, you know, because the platypus is this thing that is like a hybrid of a bunch of different creatures at once, right? Memory, one thing I'll say, I like the jellyfish picture. I think jellyfish are cool. And I voted for myself. Jeez. And sorry, and yeah, anyway. So that is the thought there. And the atmosphere that a lot of these stories will have, you know, the phantoms, there's something called Will-o'-the-Wisp. Yes, finally released a Bigfoot emoji. It's about time. Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. You know, because the Bigfoot emoji is something that we needed for a while, definitely. So that is my thoughts, is that, you know, people think a bunch of stuff, right? People think that, yeah, all right. Thanks, chat, for, you know, keeping the trolls in check. All right. So in the situations that we're speaking of, also something I'm thinking right now on the top of my head is that there is this concept of the interdimensional beings, right? But this other concept. Oh, hello, Eugene. Good to see you, bro. Oh, thank you, Jellyfish. I appreciate the knowing about that channel, because that's something that I like to know about too. I appreciate it. And my dude, Eugene, I'm glad that he see you, bro. And yeah, that something supernatural. You could even argue that the Frankenstein monster's creation was something supernatural, because the flesh wasn't, and the things they put in there wasn't supposed to do that, because it was impossible. When Dr. Frankenstein was taught in school, that in university, that it was impossible for a person to be reanimated after death like that, or after deletion, and taking random body parts and stitching them together doesn't work. Maybe they're right, but something supernatural happened, or some supernatural occurrence occurred. That would be, I'm making up off the top of my head these fan fictions about explanations why that worked, because you could basically argue it didn't work, it doesn't work, but that worked for some other reason. And there was no discovery made. All he did was unleash a monster into the world. And, you know, for instance, the Chupacabra, the Mothman, all these different things are just these rogue creatures that got away. Yes, Sway, it's Bigfoot. Right there. Absolutely. And Bigfoot was this, you know, was talked about on the United States for over thousands of years. It was talked about. So that's definitely something that's likely real. The Africa, we're talking about African cryptids, and I think it is extremely intriguing that they're able to have that. You know, very intriguing indeed. That all over the world they had these things talked about. It wasn't just something someone made up last night. Jellyfish says the author of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, was inspired. She was inspired and creeped out because the street showman hooking dead animals to electrodes made her imagination go wild. It represented anxiety and tech and hubris. Thank you, Jellyfish, for the historical analysis on what inspired her to create the story. Oh, hello, Abby, your friend. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about kinds of Frankensteins and cryptids and all kinds of spooky things. So, welcome to the stream. All right, so there is, and I'm going to say something that might be a little bit disturbing for audiences. So just keep that in mind, chat. All right, about animals, but it's not about too bad. But it's something the Soviets did experiments when they reanimated some animals that were not alive or they deleted using electricity and mechanical body parts, and it was quite disturbing, but it can be done. So that kind of reminds you of what Jellyfish is talking about, because they're hooking up the electrodes to dead animals and stuff. That is something that I agree would have inspired her. I know, right? Jellyfish, without GMO, we would starve. Oh, look who it is. It's a cryptid, chat. It's a cryptid. Oh, look, he's playing. Aw, he's famous. He loves his fans. I know you, Jellyfish. We all would starve, indeed. All right, Bud. Oh, hello, Bud Morgan. The rise in cryptid sightings is directly related to the rise of GMO crops. I blame it on Monsanto. Bro got zoomies. A cryptid kitty. Oh, yeah, so there we go. Yeah, definitely the GMOs are the reason why we have so many cryptids. I definitely agree with that, and we all are cryptids deep down in a way. So that is my thoughts about that. So, yeah, Chessie. By the way, I had a cat named Doodles, by the way. All right. And right here is my great-grandfather's garden. It's not my garden, but my great-grandfather's from the 50s. That's where we're in right now. We're in a historical location. And, you know, this in Abby, this is... Yeah, absolutely. It's based on a true cryptid. I agree. Bud Morgan, yeah. And I do believe there are sea creatures like that in the depths that were created by the fallen angels, and maybe aliens too. All right. And hello, Abby. And this is a fig tree right here. This is a fig tree right here that my grandpa planted, by the way. So, okay, and by the way, with Frankenstein, the movie, I thought was very good. And the movie depicted a very well done way of the black and white footage was so eerie. Yes, you get to see wildlife. Yes. I love the black and white, and I'm into like spooky stuff and spooky movies and things like that. But Basically, the thing with... Oh, hello, Nim. We are in my great-grandfather's garden. All right. Speaking of which, have you seen Band of Puppies yet? Not yet. No, not yet. And what occurred with these other things that one scene I thought was really cool was when this is a little bit of a spooky part, when they're digging up the bodies, because the way the sky looked and the different graves looked was really just mysterious. I thought that was a very, mysterious part of the movie, and I like the creativity because I thought that you could just stitch different people together and make a human. And I'm the person... Yeah, exactly, Eugene. Yeah, exactly. And I'm the person right here that's going to go and say, hey, I looked up on internet. I'm like, hey, can you actually do this? Can people really stitch these body parts together and make a human? And dude, AI was like, nah, bro, it's not true. I was like, darn. It was just something that, she probably didn't even realize when she wrote the novel. She didn't even realize that it wasn't even true. But with the creativity and innocence of not even knowing everything about the scientific world, they're able to say, okay, this is what happened. Yes, monsters are metaphors. Keith says we are AI. Oh, yeah, an AI might be a collective consciousness. Right. Keith, that is true, and I believe that the humans are the crown creation. And I believe we have a natural knack that we're going to always overcome whatever comes our way, and the human race will prevail. Shout out to all of you coming in and tuning in. We were talking about cryptids, aliens, and anybody have any kind of alien sightings or alien theories, let us know. There is... So... The Frankenstein monster, so for those that are coming in, and for those that may have been here the whole time, you're going to hear me talk about something I may have said before, and you'll really have it ingrained inside. So there is this concept of this alien, this Frankenstein. So Abby, he was a monster, as you know, that ravaged a city and was deleting people and stuff. And the townspeople wanted to take him down. Thank you, Tone, very much. Shout out to you. Shout out to the mods keeping trolls in check. So that is what happened. He was going around. It was a creature. I'm sure the people of Germany were thinking there's some sort of cryptid called Frankenstein lurking around, taking people out. And other people must have been like, haha, I don't know if that's true. Then people see sightings of it. Then the media tries to suppress it. And then it comes out to be true. But it was created in a laboratory by Frankenstein, you see? So we think Mothman and all these different creatures that are, Lizard Man, Wolf Man, Dog Man, all could have been experiments that were released onto humanity. So the metaphorical Frankenstein was that very thing. And I'm also arguing, in my opinion, that the Frankenstein monster was created through some supernatural, unworldly creation over scientific achievement. Hey, Tane, good to see you, buddy. And Abby says, this random but might make no sense, but have you ever judged other people's actions for the reasons aliens don't invade us? Abby, I love the way you worded that. That was very that was very brilliant and philosophical question, and I appreciate it. So I think that is a reason why the aliens may be reluctant to come here, is because the way humans act. And I could even argue that could be a reason why the aliens are coming through in a negative way. They want to do negative things to us. Might be because besides them being fallen angels and demons and stuff, they might want to fix us and be reluctant to come to our planet. So I think that I have thought of that before, Abby. And there's a Twilight Zone episode about it where there's aliens wanting to destroy Earth because we're so heartless. So I do think that could be a reason why they don't want to maybe invade us. And we broke laws but Jesus paid for our fine. Michael, I believe Jesus did pay for our fine. He sure did. He is the greatest. I believe that there's a lot of good people, but I think no one is perfect. We all can fall short. Yeah, facts. And let's see, my Jellyfish Bro says Prime Detective, Star Trek style, or Zoo Wildlife Preserve. And before that, he said something else. He said, medical science have not been able to perform head transplants with patient surviving animals included. And Prime Star Trek style or zoo life preservation. Okay, that is true because I looked it up, and you can't, like, if say a jellyfish and I, okay, disclaimer, we're not really going to do this. This is just for a hypothetical. Okay, this is just for fictional hypotheticals. And just say jellyfish and I robbed the grave or the graveyards, right? And then it brought into the laboratory, and I stitched something together and created a Frankenstein. According to science, it wouldn't really do anything. Maybe it'll lump or move a little bit, but it wouldn't really put something in there. So that is just for educational purposes, not really going to happen. Scared. But that is like, if him and I went in there and did, like with Igor and Frankenstein, that is what they would do. Right. Thank you, chat, for keeping trolls in check. I appreciate it. And Chad says, you shouldn't judge people's reactions, because we can never understand why other people do what they do. You'll go crazy trying to find why. And, when you're actually in a situation, that's when you really know who you are. And may we all do the right thing by the Lord's blessing if we're ever put in such situations. Aliens came and left. They dropped us off, one man, one woman, and left. They come back, and one day what has happened or may come back to drop off another species thinking humans have died. Yeah, I've heard the theory about that aliens, humans were created by aliens or the Anunnaki. I am a Christian, by the way, but speculating here that aliens are created by Anunnaki or aliens, and they left us, and it might bring somebody else here later. Yeah, that is a theory that I've heard of. Or they want to use us to mine gold because their planet had gold in it. So that is another theory that I've heard of myself. And let's see. Fat put me on the couch. Okay, Breezy. Okay, and Chad says jellyfish don't die. All new ones follow the oldest jellyfish on migration for many thousands of years. I don't know everything about jellyfish science, but I think they're fascinating creatures. In the pools, Pools Mermaid does videos about the pools rooms, and there's lots of very cool pools that they cover. And I think jellyfish from SpongeBob and all are cute. So yes, but jellyfish are very fascinating creatures. I think it's cool that they have bioluminescence. Okay, Tone. See you later, and thank you for fixing chat, by the way. And Chad says, okay, I read that. Nephilim are good bar bouncers and football linebackers. Yeah, exactly, because a lot of those people that are big like that have Nephilim DNA in them, right? Have you heard of the theory that we are living in hell right now? That's why there's so much in this world in cancer. I will tell you all about that, Nim. I'm glad that you brought it up. So the thing about, there's a theory that I've heard about from friends and stuff that we are already in hell. And that's why there's all these diseases and stuff. And when people die, they go either deeper in hell or they go get free to heaven. This is what I think, in my opinion. But I'm going to be philosophical for a moment and say I agree that we definitely are in like hell with all the crazy stuff that happens in the world. I do agree, but we got to remember something, is that this earth, look how peaceful it is right here. Silence for a second. And look at these trees. So I think if we were in hell, I don't know if we'd be seeing these trees and this peacefulness. And Jellyfish says, why would we have copies of the Bible? Right. Yeah. And that's another good question. I mean, there's other... You're not religious, by the way, but yeah. And you don't have to be religious. No one has to be religious and believe what they think. Yeah, and Nim doesn't think we're in hell, but he was just asking the theory. But I'm going to explain to you, chat, about the theory about humans being in hell. All right? And these are from a philosophical perspective. So there's a theory that people talk about being in hell, but look at all the wars, look at all the suffering, look at all the cancer, look at all the violence and the burning. You know, when I was little, there was there's a hurricane that I went through that was terrible. I mean, there's Epstein, and he did those creepy things to kids, and all those politicians and world leaders and countries were trafficking kids and being evil. It could be a very sick place. But I can't deny, and so that is a theory that we're already in hell, but we either go deeper down in hell or we go to heaven and get freed. But I'll tell you this. One thing, we might be in an oasis or in the eye of the storm or something like that, but just for a second, we're going to be silent for a moment. There's no fire. For the moment, everything is peaceful. There's nice plants and trees and cats. So I just don't think we're quite in hell, because there wouldn't be these plants and things. I just think that there's no light without dark. I think that good things could come out of some really horrible things. So I just think Earth is a middle ground. It's more of a limbo. I think a better argument to make is Earth is more like a limbo. And you either go further down into the underworld or you go to the land of heaven. And all opinions are welcomed and open discussion is not here. And yes, man did write the Bible, obviously. Man put it together. But we believe, in our opinion, but every single religion thinks this, is that the Bible was inspired by the Creator. Now, I think humans can make errors and come up with their own interpretations, but it was genuinely inspired by the Creator. But of course, people may not believe that, of course. I mean, I could write a book about something, about this pink vine that told me something, but it really didn't tell me anything. So no, I believe that people can manipulate religion, but I do think that all this we see didn't come in existence by accident. I think something created it, in my opinion. But maybe people don't think it did. Some of them, that's fine. They have free will to think what they want. And Satan can't create a beautiful hell, so he creates beautiful roads that lead to hell. Scary. Chad, that is extremely brilliant, inspired by the Spirit. He is good at a deceiver. He makes a Pokman's village. This Pokman's village, which is a village in Ukraine that they created to try to impress Catherine of Russia, but it really was a Timu village, and it was fake. So yeah, that's what he does. He's a deceiver. Why some people seemingly are living in luxury. It's crazy that heaven and hell exist side by side. Yeah, exactly. And Jellyfish says, problem with suffering may disprove omni-benevolent God, but it doesn't promote omni-malicious universe either. Okay. And thank you for your take. And that's the good way to look at it. In Japanese, strangling vine, it's yours. You should put off it, suffocate other plants. Okay, thank you. I didn't know that. There's a lot of vines here that are like that. And Satan is a ruler of the world right now. And I'll explain some theology about what the Christian theory is from my point of view. And remember, people don't have to believe it. It's just a point of view. So there's a theory that there was good Koduzu. Okay, understood. Thank you for the name. So the theory is that humans were given a free will, right? And some people believe there's a Pandora's box. Other people believe that we didn't, that humans got corrupted at some point. Every civilization has a story of how humans got corrupted. And the metaphor about the Christian theory, besides the literal theory, is that humans are their own worst enemy. No matter how peaceful or perfect the world is, humans would have messed it up somehow. there could have been a perfect, omnipresent God that made it as perfect as possible, but humans chose to mess it up. Like, if there is a God, or if there's not a God, humans are going to do it anyway. You know, however perfect it could have been or not, things would go sideways. And I think that humans gave up the authority over this perfect planet, because there is nice trees here, there is peacefulness here, so why can't it just all be like that all the time? So I think that humans gave up their right because their own lust for power and greed, and they ate a forbidden fruit, so to speak, which I believe is literal, and they gave their power over to Satan. So I believe Satan's literally real, but other people might think that, take it through a metaphorical perspective. Yes, and Eugene's right. God had one rule in the beginning: don't eat forbidden fruit. That's true. And Jellyfish is a very good question. And he says, that doesn't explain animal suffering not caused by humans, not religious, but love learning all about religions. Yes, and you know, that's a very good question. Charles Darwin, he became agnostic because when he was exploring the islands, when he came up with his evolutionary theory, that he would see these wasps attacking these other insects, and like he didn't know how there would be a god if there was all this, suffering going on. And he would see trees like this, and there was different types of birds that their beaks adapted to certain islands to get different types of berries. So he definitely came up with very interesting observations. But he didn't deny that, his wife was very religious, so he didn't want to hurt her. But he did think personally that he didn't believe necessarily in Christianity, but he thought that there had to be something here that created it, because it just didn't come by mere chance. So that is true. I agree that, animal suffering is terrible and insect suffering is terrible. One thing that I just want to, you can float around your head, but you don't have to have this idea float around your head, is that how did all this come into existence by accident or chance when I think something created it? And I do think whatever made it was righteous and just like if someone committed a crime, even if they had cats and pets or something, or dogs, they would go to jail if they committed a crime. And I think what happened was God loves all creation, and that's why he did send, through the Christian interpretation, he sent Jesus to save them, and eventually he will make the world better again. Another thing is that when all these pets and these different animals die, they go to heaven. So there is a life jacket that was thrown. And think about a ship that sinks, the Titanic. Sometimes things happen, and I believe the humans were told a cautionary tale that if they didn't eat from this fruit, according to Christian theory, okay, so it's a parable, a story, they would surely not die, and to not eat from that fruit because it'll cause a self-destruction to happen. And God cared about humans so much, he didn't want them to eat from this fruit. Just like if somebody like Thomas Andrews creates the Titanic, and he says, don't swipe an iceberg with it. You could hit an iceberg directly, but don't swipe the iceberg, the ship will sink. And they swiped the iceberg and sunk. So I think that it's a test, because if they think they're better than God, they will eventually be their own worst enemy, and then they're going to want to be greedy. They'll fight each other. Then the animals will go and fight each other. Then everything starts a deadly cycle, and then humans bring death into the world. So God, which I know is very difficult for people to understand, but humans chose to disobey and cause the self-destruction. So God cannot be blamed, because humans said, okay, we know this is going to hurt animals. It's going to hurt billions of people throughout generations. We're going to do it anyway, because we want to be better than God. So humans did it to themselves. Metaphorically, take it as a metaphorical story that, in your view, since you're not religious, that it's something that humans were the reason why it's all messed up. Humans hunted, humans did all these things, and we're all our own worst enemy at the end of the day. So if all humans decide to be good and used our scientific technology to help animals and help people and somehow advance our civilization to prolong life, etc., that would be good. But we're all have to take personal accountability for our actions. And that is my opinion and theory about it. But people, and there's Pandora's box, right? People opened up a box, and then all this stuff came out of it and messed up the world. Now, the evolutionary theory, which is a non-religious perspective, I'm religious personally, but a non-religious perspective is that a random explosion happened for no reason, and that all these things we see created just happened by mere chance. So all the animals suffering and humans, everything happened by mere chance and fate for no reason, just followed by itself. It's like, why in the world would that be? But, there's no answer either way, really. So the logical answer, in my opinion, which I'm not going to try to tell anyone's intelligence, but I think to my logic, my Timu logic, is that something, created all this and gave rules, and the humans chose to do something else and ruined everything. But this creator was so kind and compassionate, he sent prophets, and he sent his son, or even himself, really, in human form, to save us, and he would reset the earth later and make it better again. And he would give an afterlife for all the animals and people that all animals are righteous, but the people that were righteous would be saved, that would believe in him, and people that were just, good in general that may have not known of him. So that is my theory about that we're given a second chance. Remember, if someone commits a crime, they go to jail. It just, laws are laws. If there's some other way that could have been saved or done, we could have done it. Like, think of it scientifically. Say the forbidden fruit or whatever reset happens, completely ruins everything and causes a scientific death in the world, like a ship sinking, right? A ship hits an iceberg like the way Titanic did, it's going to sink because humans were in error. If you say there's a higher being, metaphorically, right? Which I believe it's literal, but metaphorically, a higher being that, knows what to do and what not to do, is disobeyed, and these mere creations think they know better, they're just going to destroy themselves. There were different ancient civilizations that existed, and they became great and powerful, and they built themselves up to be very advanced, and they got so arrogant in themselves, they rejected prophets and people that came to help them, and God ruined them. But metaphorically, it's also the people got so arrogant that they were their own self-destruction. Think of today, all the stuff that's destroying our civilization today, humans brought it on themselves. I believe there's God, I believe there's Satan, I believe there's a devil, but there's also humans play a big role in it too. So personal accountability, I think, is very important, even if it's not your fault. Even if it's not your fault, personal accountability is important to take, because then you could get control back. Then you could really assess the situation. Humbleness is the key here. If you believe in God or not, humbleness is the key. So I would invite everybody to have a humble mindset about these things and about the world. And that when you do that, I think the world will be a better place. All right, let's read chat. And golden rule number 1, treat others the way you would want to be treated. Golden rule 2, how most gold makes the rule. Everything happens for a reason, and there's a reason for their suffering and population to learn and use sacrifice for their survival. What I do is remember that, tell myself not the important grand scheme of things and serving others and ourselves, hope that myself, then I love others correct way. And also we have right here, let's see, going down this way, let's see. And God created evolution. Yeah, the God could have created evolution. And they will, if they could imagine, if turn back on God, he tells you he is turning back on you and leaves forever. And we don't live as we should, hence we have anxiety and misdirection. But the silly, because it had to be created by someone to begin with. Nothing don't come from nothing without God. And the resurrection of Jesus Christ is the weekend, and Easter eggs are going to be camouflage color. Okay, amen. Okay, Jellyfish says, interesting. I feel like evolution and God don't have to be exclusive. Other religions in the world accept it more easily than Christianity, Hindu, Buddhist, example. And look, my thing about evolution is that if it happened, it happened. I'm not denying it that it did. It doesn't mean that the Bible was incorrect. because even if evolution happened, God is the one that put it in motion. He's the one that created it. And God, I think, was, however it happened, something put evolution there for it to occur. And I don't know for certain because I wasn't there, but if evolution happened, it happened, and I have no problem with it. I think it's an interesting theory to study about, but I just don't know because I wasn't exactly there. But I do believe in the creation theory is true, and evolution could still be true. I think they both don't contradict each other. And yeah, it is, because the reason being, well, Abrahamic religions would have trouble accepting it because they believe that the Bible, doesn't talk about evolution, but it could have. It doesn't deny it or accept it. It just doesn't really mention it. But that is the theory with the evolutionary things. God created everything individually. But I will once say something about evolution that I think is a little bit kind of funny, is that it's like a fish crawled on land, then it turned into an alligator, then it turned into a dog, then it turned into an elephant. I think it's a little bit like something I have an issue with it if I was atheist or religious, which I'm a Christian, but if I wasn't a Christian, one thing I have a problem with is like, these different species of animals that are not related at all, like fish and elephants and dogs and cats, all evolved from each other somehow. It seems a little bit silly. Now, I do think maybe some creatures evolved, definitely, or adapted to their environment, but I don't know if the entire theory is completely correct, that there could be some holes in it. Like, for instance, there is this creature that was, which I think it's a fascinating theory, and I will say that I don't mind if it's real, doesn't bother me, and maybe it is real. I don't mind, but, I'm just kind of indifferent about it. But there's this, like, a creature, a four-legged creature, that was like looked like a beaver, millions of years ago, and it was a land-dwelling creature that went underwater. And the theory of evolution is that it evolved into a whale. So this land creature, like a cat or a dog, evolved into this whales. I don't know about that. It's a little bit doesn't make any sense logically, but I'm not saying if people believe in that, I'm not insults. In my logic, as I said, something like that wouldn't be connected. They would be individually different. But maybe if it happened, it was an act of God. Okay? But it could be real. I'm not denying it. But there's things about it I don't completely agree with, religious or not religious. Like, and if it did happen, it didn't happen by itself. Something created to do that. So I do believe evolution could have truth to it. I don't know if the entire theory is true, though. But there's definitely, like, you can evolve, like, to your environment. Like Darwin pointed out, the birds that evolved for certain types of islands. There's raccoons. We witness on the stream raccoons we call swamp puppies or banded puppies. We see these creatures come up to me and see how cool they're around humans. That's an evolutionary concept, that these animals are being more domesticated. And I believe evolution is spiritual. I mean, evolution could be spiritual and literal. I mean, and it could have happened. I don't mind if it did, but I just, don't know, and I don't completely agree with everything in it, but there does seem to be some correlation with some things with the evolutionary theory. There does seem to be some, things that make sense from it, but I don't know if it's all true, exactly. And we evolve, but our evolution norm is the way off because your hand 5 minutes in water will wrinkle to evolve to adapt to grip underwater better. Exactly, that's what I'm talking about. So humans and all things can evolve in micro ways. Yes, definitely, absolutely. I have been visited by the spirit of my cat after passing. Animals have spirits. I believe animals have spirits. Amen. Amen. And cats have slit eyes. No other cat family has that strange. All right, and I'm a geologist and totally believe in science, but as I said, some things don't just come from nowhere, but there's much more that religion frowns upon, but the concept of how could be the only ones. Don't forget, the man also aligned the Bible and the view of man. Right, as I said, I respect the geologists. I respect that. I respect that field. And if a geologist tells me, a rock has this thing in it, I'm not going to deny it's true. Like, if something says these green trees aren't real, like say if an ancient book told me these trees aren't real and they're not green. I hate to say it, but that book is wrong about that little point. For instance, the Israelites didn't eat pork because they couldn't preserve it. It wasn't necessarily because I believe God wanted them to do the right thing, but they couldn't preserve it at the time. So it was also there's a logical reason for it too. So I do believe there's civilizations that come with their own theories, and also truth from a higher spiritual power too. But yeah, and Chihuahuas and Timberwolves are both evolved from canine species. That is cool. And that's cool that they did that. And there's a theory that the gray aliens are evolved version of us. That aliens from 56,000, humans from 56,000 years from now, evolved on another in the space, and they had gray skin and big bulging gray black eyes, and that the aliens we see could be time travelers. So I mean, humans could evolve into the grays. So I mean, I'm not denying it's something's like that there. I mean, it could be. And don't okay, so everything has energy. We all are connected one way or another. So yes, animals have spirit. I believe that as well. Yes, I agree. Dog breeds are interesting. Domesticated animal breeds and friendly to humans and tend to hold onto puppy traits. That's why we have fun colors and shapes dogs come from so rapidly. Yeah, and I believe that is an amazing thing. And you know, I like the blue-footed boobies, for instance. I think those are so very cool creatures from the island that he found. And the dog breeds are so fascinating too. I mean, you have small dogs, you have big dogs, you have all kinds of different colored dogs. And I believe that there's wolves, right? And then there's our domesticated dogs. There's tigers and lions, but there's our domesticated cats. You could argue that that's an evolutionary thing. And that's something God made very well. And I mean, you know, even religion in Christianity had evolution over time. I mean, even religion could have it. So I think that it's an ingenious concept and just a way of life. Like Lion King, the circle of life. I believe the circle of life is real. And, you know, those concepts are great that Chad is mentioning. Very, very good point, Chad. And Chad says cats purr at a certain frequency that can calm humans down from state, fever, distress, which is cool. All right, Vash says nocturnal species evolved slit eyes for precise depth and perception and light color. Right, very good point. Very good point. I mean, for instance, say you have a log with bugs on it, and underneath the log, there's a bunch of light colored bugs that are for nocturnal environments. And see, that's a, you know, an evolutionary trait. And you could have creatures that evolved for the type of environments that are in. Like bats were evolved for a certain type of environment. And say you have, say I'm fair complected, but when I go into the sun, I could tan, right? My skin, my body's evolved or adapting to the environment that it's in. And over time, people that are always in like environment like that would adapt traits for the region that they're in. So that is absolutely true in my opinion, definitely. And Chad said, science has an interesting 200-year-old study. In 75 years, humans will lose fingernails and head hair in 250 years from lengths previously today. That could be. You know, that's possible. And the Greys are bald, and they're hairless, and they have no nails or anything. You know, there's theories that they're the evolved versions of us. I mean, it's possible. We'll not be here, but the humans that succeed us later will see if that happens at some point. All right, and Jellyfish says cats and dogs are less like species in evolution, more like Hasberg jaws and inbreeding and selective breeding traits. Yes, yes, very good point there, because cats and dogs are both very inbred. That is true. And I read that's why they don't live as long as humans, because of that, is one of the reasons. And also talking to a veterinarian about it said the same thing. So the Habsburg jaw is from it was a royal family in Austria, and they developed these Habsburg jaws, and these very big exaggerated jaws and very big lips. And over in United Kingdom, the Hanover dynasty, they had something called the bulbous eye, the kind of like eyes that have like a heavy lidded. My eyes are heavy lidded. You know, y'all probably saw my eye on the channel picture, but yeah, my eyes are heavily lidded, for instance. My dad was from England, but yeah, so different people, especially in those like royal families or specific traits, will have over time. The inbreeding may cause certain features to occur that could be seen as unique or different, that wasn't from evolution. And there was this another thing for the royal family that they had was they had these things that happened where the Queen Victoria had this very bad blood disease, and it did not to the line of King Edward VII, but it went to the line of Tsar Nicholas and his family, and his son had something like that, and the dude will like bleed or bruise very badly. So that is from the interbreeding of humans or animals can produce traits that were not evolutionary or maybe de-evolution. So yeah, that's where the species of humans may not be, there's other ways traits can come besides evolution. Now, Vash says that's forced evolution. Ah, okay. Now, sometimes the traits can, I feel, de-evolution something because it can cause defects. And, okay, and let's see. Bud Morgan said there are many breeds of humans, greys, and cryptids, similar to different dog breeds, bulldogs, pointers, labs, etc. Yep, very true. All right. Chad says, Smash Nice, and cats, dogs will stare, do nothing for a period of time, and see like 8 colors. Dogs and cats see like 14, but there's like 404K separate colors on the light spectrum. Yeah, exactly. And the hair theory may be considered climate change as evolving, deal with the temp change. And Chad says, dogs know their lifespan, which is why they live happy every day with a good family and know to sleep 70% of the day. Their only fear is falling to, and they look at you to protect them when going second. Ah, okay. I didn't know that about dogs. That is very cool. Very cool indeed. And it is an interesting concept to have where definitely that is cool to know. Okay, so thank you, dogs. I mean, not dogs. Thank you, Chad. And yeah, I do think the Earth goes through cycles every few thousand years that cause different weather patterns. And I don't really know what is caused by us and what's caused by the Earth doing natural cycles. I will say that the chemtrails are certainly from Temu. And they are really messed up. And I think what they're dropping on us is not good at all. Indeed. Selective breeding is a man-made type of evolution. Yeah. So with the selective breeding, it's, certain species would breed with each other to produce certain traits. And this is where social Darwinism and stuff came from. And Darwin himself was against social evolution. Social Darwinism. He was against it. He didn't want people being thought of as unevolved. He didn't like it. Karl Marx and communists wanted to take his idea too, and everybody just made a meme out of him. But yeah, he wasn't into all the other theories that came later. He was just trying to explain how creatures may have came into existence. Chad said, only dogs will only see one way in their whole life. Every different person will see you differently. Oh, interesting. 100,000 years ago, and chemtrails are real, right? All right. they have glow in the dark dogs in Alabama using CRISPR for years to see hunting dogs at night. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. And let's see, from overseas, Cayman cider. I have no idea what that is. It's not. What is that exactly? The Cayman cider. I'm not too sure what that is. And okay, so jellyfish. My favorite cryptid. Good question. I will give you an answer. I will have to say the Mothman. Okay, Blair Jagacha. Okay, nice. Yeah. So Karl Marx was Michael Malice of the 20th century. Okay. Okay. So my favorite cryptid is Mothman. This is why it's a favorite Mothman's my favorite. There was a story one time a couple of years ago with one of the fans of mine. I was on different podcasts and shows on, like, I used to be in chat rooms, and I would be a guest on different podcasts, and I got a fan base and want me to go live on my own streams, and I said, all right, I'll do it. And what I did was I went live and on the computer, and I would do the phone lives too. And there was an incident that happened where in a tree cam from one of her friends caught this really weird creature in a tree. And we didn't know what it was. And it was like, was it fake or something? But it was very high up and it was very tall. And I had the picture still. And she thought it was, one of my friends saw it was a Mothman. So then I got into researching the Mothman. And there was this thing with Mothman that happened where it's this cryptid that looks like a giant winged creature. And so that's why it's my favorite, because my friend had an incident with Mothman. So the reason why another reason about it's my favorite creature is that it's like kind of tallish with wings and red eyes, and it flies around, and it's seen as an omen during different times. During different times, it's seen as a evil creature. And other times people see it as an omen of some sort. It was seen during 9/11. It was seen during a collapse of a bridge. Pretty much any disaster that happened, even in the thing in Ukraine that collapsed or exploded, there's all kinds of different theories and hypotheses for what the cryptid does. So that is why, in my opinion, the Mothman is my favorite. And it's very mysterious. It could have been a lab experiment. It could have been a crane. It was seen in the 60s. Yeah, Chernobyl. Yes. That incident in Ukraine or Russia or whatever. I don't know how to exactly say the word. And that is how the Mothman occurred. That's why it's my favorite. And it was seen in the 60s. And it flew over somebody's car, and it was real weird, and that's why I like the Mothman. All right, I lived in Solomon's Island for 2 years, and their other half of the island opposite of Henaira, and no one goes because odd giants, if you cross the river, you'll disappear. Yeah, you see, the giants, the Nephilim, they're probably lurking on that island. Yeah. And Chris says, reference to the Mothman, our ancestors tell us stories for a reason. Yes. I like the idea Mothman was a barn owl with creepy lightning. Barn owls can be very big and creepy and dark. Yes. Yes. So I'll tell you this. We were thinking maybe that's what happened. A weird electrical storm happened and it made it into a mutant. I think it's possible, something we were talking about the other day, that Mothman could be a cryptid from a lab experiment. Or maybe an extraterrestrial experiment. And local snakes when asked about it. Gotcha. Jellyfish. You were scared of barn owls? I don't blame you. A jellyfish. What scared you about barn owls? I have owls here, and they do hooting in the trees, like in spring. And that is they're like mysterious and cute. But they can be kind of scary. I saw the owls. Sometimes I'll see them, and they will be white, and they fly over. Yeah, and they're very cool. What's your favorite modified fruit? I am all these new fruit flavors. I don't know about modified fruit flavors. I'm just I'm a little bit teamufied in that area. Chris says there are other creatures I chose not to mention because it can cause them to normally found around North Mexico. Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, thanks. It's like talking about them summons them. Gotcha. There's a Mothman in India born covered in moth hair, but he can't fly. Ah, gotcha. All right, and the Joker fell into a vat of chemicals and came out with a smile on his face. Yep, that is true. Jellyfish says, I love owls in general, but the horror movie featured them in a movie I saw really young, and the face is just creepy to me. Yeah. I can make an owl noise, by the way. Anyway, maybe I'm a cryptid. Oh, hello, Zoomy. Welcome to the stream. And yeah, that is a really crazy experiment. Oh, those sound like some cool flavors. Large. Sounds like some pretty cool flavor. A cotton candy blueberry would sound good. And hello, and yeah, good to see you, buddy. So that's what I think about the owls, is that they can be very interesting, and they can also be creepy at the same time. I think I have barn owls, actually. I think those are the owls that I have. And you found that interesting, okay. And okay, thank you, Chris Ann. All right. And yeah, okay, let's see about religious view. Let's see some more about religion. Here we go. Down the rabbit hole. So I think that different religions that were non-Abrahamic came from the fallen watchers. So there are these different entities called the watchers from the Bible and the Book of Enoch. I believe the Book of Enoch has truth in it, and I believe it should have been kept in the Bible, along the other books are taken out of the Bible. In the Book of Enoch, and these talk about these watchers that came to Earth for Earth women, and they may have been aliens. People might consider them aliens, or some people think they're the same thing, but these watchers came down, and they took these beasts of the earth and creatures of the sea and created these hybrids, right? We call it Nephilim. This other thing that you can take into consideration is India, the Hindus and stuff. No disrespect to any religion. This is my personal interpretation, is that all these civilizations we've talked about that see cryptids and different creatures and evolved or not evolved animals, where it came down and these beings were able to, you know, want to be worshipped as gods. So when these different entities and these different, oh, hello, Bro, my brother. Welcome to the stream. We are talking about theology and cryptids. So I think the other religions that exist were because of fall of those gods were actually fallen angels called the Watchers and Satan and all those different entities that want to be worshipped. And then the Abrahamic God, the God of, the Abrahamic religions, chose Israelites and the different other groups and, different times in the past to bring his message to the world because he wants to bring people back to himself. And God was talking about these sacrifices that were going on. And he said he never would have had people do that for him. He thought it was very bizarre. And that's why he had Isaac and Muslims think it's Ishmael, and Judaism and Christianity thinks it's Isaac. But either way, Abraham had one of his sons that were going to be sacrificed. And God said no, and he brought the ram in the bush. This was metaphorical according to the Christian interpretation, this is metaphorical that God was going to sacrifice his own son instead, in the place of everybody. And that he put a ram in the bush as like a saving grace. But these other gods had people sacrifice their children. All these entities were, wanting to worship to these big idols and be weird. And God was like, y'all are creepy. Y'all are weird. Because he's thinking about these gods that came to earth that did that. He thought it was so weird. But that's how God is. He didn't have the son sacrifice. He sent the ram instead. And then he even sent him he himself in human form, his son, to do it in place of us all. So let's just talk about it from a theological, historical perspective. That this Christianity believes that the sacrifice was made by the God himself or his son. Some people think Jesus was a prophet. There's various different interpretations who Jesus was. But that would sacrifice Jesus in the place of humanity from the Christian interpretation. And all these other religions had people sacrificed for the God. So it just shows you how different the Christian view is on things. Even if people don't have to believe in it or not, but it's quite different and more compassionate. And, there's Baal, okay? So the god Baal was this big horned humanoid thing. And it was this statue, this golden idol that the Israelites and other tribes in Canaan would put their babies on its hands and have it burned and incinerated. I believe Hollywood, and I believe all of these elites and these Epstein-type people are doing that today. With the sacrifices of the children. And that is what Baal was. Baal is Satan. Baal was the challenger of the God of Abraham. So that is what that being is. And he's still here today, and I believe the elites and the governments and the different Hollywood and the Hollyweird and stuff are all connected with the forces of darkness. So the gods were these fallen angels that came down and deceived people, and doesn't mean the people that believe in them are bad, but that's what I think their origins were. And the other entities, like Baal and stuff, were Satan. And Zeus was Satan, allegedly. So, and Thor is like a UFO, and flying across the sky. So that's what I think my interpretation of the theology is. Zoroastrianism is very fascinating. I agree. You can play mating noises for owls on a speaker and they will fly down to find a female. Maybe they split us up around the world with different religions and languages so we don't try to build another Tower of Babel to reach the heavens, because when God saw the tower, he destroyed it. Maybe. That's a possibility. Culturally, Zoroastrianism gives roots to some Abrahamic culture traditions later on. Christianity is the only religion that does loving things next to Buddhism and doesn't believe in God but reincarnation. All right, Marie. Okay, big brain. Thanks. And Baal was original name for a storm god by Proto-Canaanites. Oh, yes. Yes, correct. And Buddhism, Buddha, the prophet Buddha, I believe, there's another thing I do believe at the same time, besides the other things that I said, is I believe God sent prophets to all parts of the world, everywhere. And I believe that the Buddha could have been a prophet for the people of his time, and he says a lot of similar things to what Jesus said. And Confucius also said similar things. Confucius said, if you see on your doorstep, you're talking about the snow on your neighbor's doorstep, but you're not talking about the snow on your own doorstep. And Jesus said, you have a beam in your eye, but you're focused on the eye of your neighbor, but not yourself. So Confucius and Jesus said the same things, and Buddha too. Buddha said, like, if you have a hot coal and you're angry and you want to get revenge on someone, you throw it at them, you're going to only burn your own hand. So that's all. I do think there are different prophets that God sent to different civilizations. And I do think that, peaceful and just is a good way to go. And you are correct. Zoroastrianism has Abrahamic roots. I think it predates Abrahamic religions, and they believe in one God, and it is related to Abrahamic religions. Now, there is the Magi, and the Magi were these, they were from the prophet Daniel. The prophet Daniel went over there, and that was their prophet. And they would to see the baby Jesus. The Magi didn't go there on that very day that Jesus was born, but they came there a little bit later. So with Jesus, the Magi were Zoroastrians, but they were inspired by the prophet Daniel. So yes, it is connected. It is connected. And Zoroastrianism is very fascinating. It's so cool. They have this giant thing that they burn in. I have one, by the way, and it's like this giant metal chalice thing that they burn incense in. And they have these mystical, temples, and it's so very fascinating indeed. So yes, Zoroastrianism is very interesting. I agree. Oh, okay, Jelly, interesting. Yes, that's true, Chad. Cursed is the very last word of the Old Testament. Interesting. The first saint was a man next to Jesus on the cross. That's not well known. Found out that today. Oh, thank you for letting us know. Glad that you figured that out. That makes sense. And another saint was the person that impaled him in the cross, because the water came out and came on his face. And, and the person was no longer blind, and he got killed by the Romans. Another thing I want you all to realize, there's an elephant in the room. All Jesus' disciples died horrible deaths, including the dude that impaled him on the cross, because he claimed that Jesus was God and he died on the cross for sins. All these people were brutally murdered by the Roman government, and people were humiliated and eaten by lions because of the name of Jesus. So all these people would not die because of a practical joke. Because Jesus was reappearing after his death, multitudes of people all over the place after he died. So people are not going to die for a practical joke. People think they could have hallucinated it, or they really saw him. Those are the two possibilities. But all these people hallucinate the same thing multiple times. Moral basics. Yeah, moral basics. That's true. Those guys, that cult came Daniel's teaching after saved butts from King. Yeah, King Nebuchadnezzar. Yes. Favorite fact about archaeology is that N.E. Nazar, famous ancient copper merchant with hate mail, lived in the same city as Abraham himself, possibly around the same time. That is so cool. I never knew that. Okay. That fun fact. That's cool. And oh, hello, Mermaid. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. And Chad says, Magi were wise and extremely knowledgeable in all ancient and present knowledge. That's why kingdoms wanted them destroyed. Yeah. The Magi, they were magicians. Like we call magicians. They were magic. And they're very wise, and they gave Jesus gifts, and they kneeled before him. And Mermaid, I hope you're doing well. Shout out to you. Very excellent channel. You do the pools, um, games. Awesome. And Romans weren't the ones just chilling, and also Sanhedrin gave orders to Herod. Yes, yes. If Jesus could turn water into wine, what do you think he could do with the kilo of oregano? A kilo of oregano. I don't. I'm sure it could be beyond your imagination. What something Jesus did was he was preaching on the mountain, and he gave. There wasn't enough to go around, so Jesus was able to get the fish that was there, and he made it multitudes of people, thousands of people. He gave enough fish to, so he was able to multiply food beyond your comprehension. Just like with the quail that flew into the Israelite camp. God was able to do these miracles throughout time. Yeah, and Chad said imagination will be our greatest weapon when everything else is taken. Yes. So, in this situation, another thing that he talked about was, faith moving a mountain. And sometimes prayers are not answered and people get discouraged, but there's something quite interesting here, is that your faith is that God has another way of doing something. For instance, a rabbi was telling, I was told, a family friend who's a rabbi, his wife was telling me something he said, so it's from a rabbi that, although I'm a Christian, he said that the Adam and Eve falling out, it was an opportunity for humans to get better. And the reason you may go, alien, what's that mean? Because all the suffering in the world. Humans had a choice now. Since you know good from evil, you can do better than you could ever have done before if the forbidden fruit was never eaten. So it was a very good opportunity when the forbidden fruit was eaten for humans to do even better things they could have had before. Because if humans didn't have the forbidden fruit eaten, you wouldn't be able to do all the good things you could do now. Because we would have just been like cats and dogs. We would have been more, not like how we are now. So still a good thing came out of it. And God can answer prayers in a different way. There is a lot of prayers that I prayed that didn't come the way I thought it would come out. But all the things that didn't work out, I just trusted in God's plan, and here it is. What we have today. The YouTube stuff. So the dots, you can't always think it connects now, but it definitely connects in the future. That's what it did for me. So this is why I have to say that with prayers and different things, it's answered a different way than we want. Because God will take away a little teddy bear and give you a giant teddy bear instead. And Chad said, birds and fish are so high seen upon God due to their birthing events. Interesting. And the devil will give you everything you want. That is true. God will give you everything you need. And there are... Okay, a jellyfish says, I think it's fascinating that the Amish and similar group population is rising super fast lately. Studies show higher cost displays of faith, celibacy, ritual, and sacrifice of tech make strong communities. Not that I agree with it. Okay, jellyfish. And I want to say that your open-mindedness, I admire, and even if not being religious, and the fact that you're able to think independently of other things you may have been told or heard about, I think is a very important trait for people to have. So, yes, I definitely... The Amish I've studied about, and I even have Amish beard balm, by the way. It's good. It smells very nice. And the Amish are a very fascinating civilization. and they seem to have very close communities. And it does, although I like technology too, and I don't live like that either, I think that it does seem to create tight, better communities. And all these types of other ideologies did was de-evolve society. You know, the iPad kids and kids just regressing backwards and backwards into nothing land. And the society, the more tech and luxuries they got, the worse they became. Like I told you all, parables from ancient civilizations. And, oh, you see a face? Scared. And that is what I think, is that those civilizations that we speak of were collapsing because they got too arrogant. The other people are humble. Now, people can be humble and be righteous with technology as a balance. You don't have to go to that extreme, but yes, those civilizations took a key factor out that would cause a destruction. And I do believe having a faith in God is important. And even if people don't have to believe in God, I'll say this, people don't have to believe in God, but the teachings of Christianity are very important because the civilizations throughout thousands of years, I'm not even going to go back for that far, hundreds of years, it was good. The societies were pretty good. And then everything went downhill. So loving your neighbor as yourself, you know, not holding grudges against people, treating everyone with respect, I think are just golden rules for society. So that's why I think it's important to keep those concepts alive and not get rid of them, because like the Russian Revolution, they had hedonism, they had the complete decay of their civilization. They're burning churches and destroying everything, and they regressed and they became a disgraceful, poor country. Once the wealthiest country in the world became a complete, completely destroyed. Although some good things came out of it, there was good things that came out of their revolution, but there were some things that didn't go right. So I think and seeing it happen with France. So I think that people don't have to be religious. I think religions can go too far because they could be too strict. There were the Puritans. There are religions that the Catholic Church had problems too. I think the religion can be too extreme, but the other extreme is bad too. I think the truth is in balance. A yin and a yang, so to speak. And want nothing and shall be given. All right. A day without prayer is pride. Do not put your trust in a man. You can't trust yourself most of the time. If you don't trust God, you have it yourself. That's a lonely life. I know, because when you're not believing in God, you just have yourself. You're on your own, and people can't even be reliable. And us humans make mistakes, so it isn't really the best situation to be in. Fireflies are a weird evolution. Yeah, that's something I never even thought of before. Yeah, that's a good point. It would be a weird evolution. That's true. And Bull Striker, Amish don't feel like they're missing anything because they never had it. They definitely are better off. You know what? That is a very good point. And, if you never had a drink in your life, you're never going to miss it. If you never had something like this ever occur, you're not going to miss, drugs or anything. So they never had it, so they never have to miss it. That's a very well put, very wise words. Think about Stat Wars. Yeah, that's another good point. And another thing that, they enticed Anakin to do dark side, and immediately the two twins were born, Luke and Leia. Oh, he said Star Wars, the yin and the yang. Okay, Stat Wars, I didn't know what that was about. It was a typo. Okay, yin and a yang. Okay, yeah, Anakin is a good example of that. It's like he was tempted by the dark side, and if he would have listened to Mace Windu, they would have given him access to that library where he could have learned how to save people from dying. And Yoda lived for hundreds. He could have asked him, but they didn't ask Yoda. He asked this dude that didn't even know himself the answer. And yeah, so he is another example of something that fell from grace, and Luke and Leia were a balance. Right. You see, that's a good example. Star Wars, the Luke and Leia. It's a balance between light and dark. Because remember, the chosen one from Star Wars, he was supposed to bring balance to the Force. He wasn't supposed to destroy the Sith or the Jedi. The Jedi thought he was going to destroy the Sith, but he was supposed to bring balance to the Force. So the dark side is an attribute to be there with the light side. It's a yin and a yang. That's right. All right, and Jellyfish says, and very good analogy, Chad. I respect that. Friends, family, and loved ones not lonely. I admit religious people are probably less lonely overall. I do envy those with faith, but I feel fulfillment and wonder regardless. Oh, Jellyfish, that is what is best for you. You do what you think is best. And I think that it is not a sign of weakness to rely on God or to believe in a God. I think that it is a strength, in my opinion, to know things that are not known. And the teachings, and even if you don't have to ever believe in it, but I do think there are some teachings in Christianity or religion that is positive that shouldn't be completely discarded. And if you ever do one day become a person of faith, that is up to you and your timing. But, I believe that the Spirit will be with you and guide you, and just let's follow your heart and intuition with everything. Just karma, destiny, the universe, or whatever, yourself, your gut. Go with it when you were thinking about something. And I think that has helped you this whole time. And some people that aren't religious, I think maybe the most religious people. Because there are people, Jellyfish, that go to church or whatever religion they believe in, and they're like Pharisees, and they don't really follow anything, and they're stupid. So I think that, and they're prideful. But you, I think, have a lot of attributes of a righteous, religious person from my perspective. So I think that it does happen in mysterious ways. Right. All right. And Millennial Falcon was the fixer-upper with experience tags. Yep. And Jellyfish says, Eastern spirituality tends to be more a parable and wisdom isms, so like Confucius and stuff. Oh, and look, I call myself an eclectic Christian because I like things from all kinds of different faiths. But yeah, I think Confucius's teachings are very good, and Buddha's too. And the meditation is good as well. So yeah, if you want to follow that, that's fine. And I also just don't think we came into existence by accident. Something created us. But yeah, and those religions are cool. Don't envy those with faith. In my mind, I always say we all transcend perfection and truly realize this. And my perspective about sin and stuff is this. I think all humans are imperfect and we could all have flaws and make mistakes. And if there is a God, which I believe there is, he is perfect, and it's 100% perfect. And I give you an analogy from Egyptian spirituality and aliens going down the rabbit hole of religion, like exclusive VIP rabbit hole. Amen, Leslie. And that is true, that Christ is the way, church, and hearts and soul. And Leslie, I agree with you fully, 100%. So in ancient Egypt, there's Anubis, and I like Anubis. And I believe he was probably one of those interdimensional beings. And Anubis is this dog god who's like a humanoid dog. And he's like a black dog, but he looks kind of different looking than dogs you see in the West. And when someone dies, he would weigh the sins of a person next to a feather. And if anybody's actions were more than a feather, they would go to hell. I think the parable here is that anything a person does is never going to be good enough to be as light as a feather, because we all have fallen short. We all have done things that are wrong. The point is that nobody was ever going to make it. So my opinion is that feather is a dove feather. And Jesus is the dove feather from the same bird as the other feather is on the scale. because they weigh it on a scale. And Jesus, instead of our deeds being placed in the scale, it's his own feather that's placed in the scale in our place. So the feathers balance out in its equilibrium. Because I just think all people can make a mistake. If he said, if you think of a bad thought towards somebody or something wrong, or say a lustful thought or whatever, you've already committed it in your heart, good or bad. So we all have fallen short, I think. And us compared to God's perfection is not going to be 100%. So that's why I do think it's nice to know that Jesus had us in mind when coming here and resurrecting. Just my point of view. Just, I think we all can make mistakes and fall short. Anubis versus Eris. Yes. Okay. And Jellyfish says, I will say that the concept of individual belief in the truth statements of faith and pillar of Christianity is actually a recent focus of medieval times, where much more practice and ritual. Yes, the Catholic Church specifically was about practice and ritual. This is why, although I still deny everything from the Catholic Church, I still, when I was growing up, I believed more in Protestantism when I was raised Catholic, because the Catholic Church to me seemed very into their practices, and like their communion was so important. You know, you had to learn communion. You had to go through all these things to learn communion. But Jesus said in the Bible, it's like, if you believe in me, you'll never die. And do this in memory of me. It had nothing to do with these other things they're speaking of. And I just thought that going to God yourself, have a personal relationship with Jesus, God, whatever people believe in, is important. And the Bible has so much valuable things in it to learn. And I just feel that the church didn't focus on that as much. So I had a Protestant phase, but then I got older, I learned more about the Catholic Church. And it was the early church, the original church Christianity had, and had ancient practices from long ago that I don't think are illegitimate. So I don't think it's illegitimate for people that want to practice those things. And I have a combination of all kinds of different faiths in one, right? So I didn't completely discard everything from it, but I am, more Protestant, Bible-based. And that's why I believe in having a relationship with God is more important, because the kingdom of God is within man, not in a group of men or anybody else, but it's within all of you. And, your faith can move a mountain, not in a church, and people can be corrupted. That's my view. So that's why I believe that you and God or a higher being is more important than those personal practices. And there's an angel of numbers, an angel calculations, anything. Amish have perpetuated perfection to utilize horses' energy, and horses eat grass for energy, and horse mature, very fertilizers, and growing grass. Thank you, Jellyfish. And who'd put the recreational facility right next to a waste disposal site? The Timu ambassador did that. Centauria is an occult from Catholicism. Ah, okay, thank you. Lord, true, but we should remain ourselves. God sees us perfectly. And peace, yes. There's people that eat horses in Europe, but I learned that one time I was looking at some unsolved mysteries, and there was this thing that happened where they're eating a horse, the people in like Europe, and I thought that was crazy. But over in the West, we don't eat horses over here. Mexico does eat horses, though. Mexico eats horses, but Americans don't eat horses because of it was their best buddy, their trusted steed. And I'm never going to... Oh, you're in Germany. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't eat horses. I'm not going to eat a horse, but I hear what you're saying, but here, horses are our best friends. That is a very good question, Jellyfish. And Jellyfish says, have you heard arguments that some animals practice religious practices? Elephants have funerary and events and proto-burial rituals. I didn't know that exactly about elephants, but I do know that animals do practice religion. I am aware of that. And I do believe they believe in a higher being. Even they know. You know, monkeys and gorillas practice something religious. And the planet Serpo, where they had Ebians, some of our astronauts went there allegedly. And these aliens had a religious. They believed they prayed one time a day. The alien Ebians prayed one time a day. And it seems that they believe in a higher being. So, and the Ebians don't seem to have bad stories like the Greys. The Greys are the ones that are pretty evil, most likely. And the lizard aliens are the most evil ones of all. The lizard aliens are demonic. And there is this thing with even, I believe, aliens, I believe animals and all do have religious practices. Bud Morgan. Yeah, the lottery numbers. There is a saying about the lottery numbers. You could teach a man to fish, and you could give a man a fish and feed him for a day, and teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime. Even if you got the $1 million from the lottery, if you ever do that one day, make sure you're able to keep it and not blow it off. So do what you can now to try to prepare for that time. Because a lot of times, there's a Twilight Zone episode where they got a genie and he gave them 3 wishes and he wanted to be at millions of dollars, and he got millions of dollars in his shop. You know what he did? He gave away the money to everybody, and the government taxed him too, and he had only $5 for himself. So it's important to, whenever you win the lottery, to make sure you're prepared to have it last for generations. As if there's a saying from the Stoics. Another thing I like about religion, Jellyfish, is I like the Stoic philosophers from Greece, Rome, also. And the Stoic philosophers, that, live each day as if it were your last, but take care of your body as if you're going to live forever. And exactly, Jellyfish, right. Pigeons mate for life and actually kiss and will never choose another mate. And their necks are 3 colors of the throne of God. Amen. And those are the same thing as doves, as the front of the Trinity. So you do have that factor too, at the same time. And yeah, they mate for life and they choose another mate. Yeah, because the pigeons know. The pigeons are very spiritual and they believe in something higher up, and they have their morals and values. The rich are wicked and the wealthy are wise. Right. Right. To get to where they are, they had to be pretty ruthless to begin with. So I am glad to know that about pigeons. I didn't know that off the top of my head. Yeah, and that is, what I think about that stuff. And there is a saying where, Jesus told a parable that I think anybody can follow. There is the 2 people, and one built their house on a rock, and the other built his rock on the sand. And the storm came to both houses. So what that means is, in life, the storms come to everybody. Nobody's excluded on this earth from bad things that happen. But if your house is built on the rock, the storm came to both houses, and the house that was built on the rock stood strong, and the one that was built in the sand washed away. And the important thing is that if you go and Build your house in the sand. The storms of life will come and you'll wash away. But if you build your house on the rock, it will not wash away. So it's important to build your house in the rock and not sand. And any storm that comes to you in life, you'll stand strong no matter what. It's important to have a strong foundation. And there were some people, there was somebody that heard about the good news, and there's only seeds that were cast in the soil, right? And there were some people threw some seeds on some thorny ground, some in some bad terrain, and others on good soil. When this happened, you had this problem occur where only the seed that was planted in good ground and heard the good news was the one that grew. You have all the people that heard good news, that saw good news, but it didn't take root. So that's why it's important to do it like that. You have to be good soil so all the vegetation and plants can be grown for you in your yard. And Naz-Anai, spider god, in Africa, a trickster, but also a teacher of wisdom, probably don't eat to get on the bad side of a spider god. Yeah, jellyfish, a spider god certainly would be one to not get on one's bad side. Definitely agree with that. It's a trickster, and while I'm sure that one would be one to reckon with indeed. Yeah. Soon Stan Romanek will be free from jail as he was framed. I don't even know who that is, but that's interesting. All right. And if the motor falls off your boat, at least you still have a boat. You could be in the water. That's somewhere you could be with all the sharks. Yeah. Then again, you get stranded there, you get some fish. There was actually somebody that was stuck for a couple of years in his fishing boat on the ocean, and they found him later. There's something that happened in Florida allegedly where they had Gerald the dolphin, and this man washed up on the shore in Florida, and he claimed that Gerald the dolphin took him underwater and brought him to a base to create a new base for the dolphins. And Gerald the dolphin was the one that was calling the shots, and everyone knew not to mess with him. And the man was deemed not insane. So there's been all these memes going on online about Gerald the dolphin everywhere, and it's basically like the dolphin from SpongeBob. That's what it probably looks like. And that's why I think, yeah, it's like a fun acid trip. So that is the story of Gerald the dolphin. He's still under there somewhere, and there are some dolphins being deleted off the coast of Florida, and maybe they're trying to hide the secrets. So yeah, shout out to Gerald the dolphin. Definitely a G. Gerald the dolphin. Okay. So, I tell you some alien stories. So there's a story that there is a person that was working on a mine, and he crashed in a field out in the coast. No, he crashed in a field, right? So the alien came out the UFO, and he was healing his leg with some sort of laser thing. And he told the man that, he told him something he could understand. So he used this wand as like a translator and told him he wasn't going to hurt him, but he crashed and his colleagues needed help. And then 2 other aliens were dead. So, well, thank you, boss. Yes, I have. I definitely indeed. So with the alien, there is this incident that happened where he, he needed to be helped. They went inside this other area. So, for instance, you have the man went inside the UFO craft, and he saw this giant thing on the ceiling that was a water circular globular thing floating on the ceiling. There was a TV screen thing and these little seats in his white room, and he got out two of these silver orbs, these ball things, and he brought him to the barn, and they're telling him he needed to contact the sheriff to go and get this alien taken care of. They're probably going to call the military, but the alien, they didn't want to bring the alien away while the alien was getting his craft fixed. What they did was, these people, they were going out and having this other experience where they wanted to see what was in his barn, and he came up with a story with an alibi, and he was like, they eventually believed him, and he was telling the alien that there is bad people. He didn't understand sheriff or military. He said bad people are coming. So they were getting the UFO repaired, and eventually the Ebian was able to fly back to where it came from. But he was left behind some objects he gave to the government. Yes, they love barns. And it seems that the alien gave him these objects that the government took and they liked, and the person kept the wand. And the wand was the translation device, and he thought that the alien would come back one day or speak to him through there. But the alien never contacted him again, and it was passed on to somebody else. So that is an alien encounter story. Another alien encounter has to do with Area 51. So at Area 51, not Area 51, but something like that, there was this dude that worked, a doctor that worked at Area 51 or one of those places, allegedly, under a secret base. And he made friends with this alien called J-Rod, which is basically a gray alien. And the alien had a family and wife and all this stuff, and he had to inject things into him and do experiments on him, and then eventually became friends, and they had a closer bond. And he just really developed an attachment to him. And the alien said that in 2012, there's supposed to be this is before 2012, by the way, there's going to be this event that happened where you are going to have this sighting occur where Nibiru Planet 10 was going to collide or orbit our planet. And that the aliens were time travelers from 56,000 years from now. And they came here to stop these things from happening, to help their own civilization by getting resources from humans and various different factors. And there is this Project Yellow Book, which is this Project Yellow Book is this thing where the aliens are... Okay, the aliens were trying to have a tablet of some kind. And it tells the history of the universe from the beginning all the way to the beyond our time. And these aliens that had this information, they, were showing him this and answers to all these different questions from this holographic tablet, the Project Yellow Book. And eventually what happened with J-Rod is that he brought him back to wherever he came from through a portal in Samaria, a Sumerian portal. And that is another alien story from somebody that was allegedly working with them. One that is confirmed is Major Grush, and many people that are in the Air Force and Navy that are testifying that they saw some UFOs come out the oceans. So the UFOs that are in the oceans, they came out from underwater at these ridiculous speeds and going underwater at ridiculous speeds, and they were orbs, things that people couldn't explain. So there was this football field sized thing that they were all landing to. And there are this so the that was the base that was there. And so these USOs are going underwater to find that. Jellyfish says the Tic Tac UFOs are the most convincing thing for me, but still skeptical. Okay. Well, with the Tic Tac UFOs, I think those are probably, those are definitely true. I agree with that. There's orbs, there's also plasmoids, there's a couple of different things. So these UFOs that you're seeing, I think that they've been here for thousands of years. And there are theories that these aliens, from but the Romans saw UFOs. All these different civilizations saw UFOs. Hey, Fisher, good to see you, bro. Okay, so we're talking about theology and aliens. Yeah, so with the UFOs, there's lots of convincing evidence to me about it, and there's something called Skinny Bob video. And it's the alien, and he's blinking, he's moving his eyes around, and that to me seems like a real sighting, in my opinion. And I do think possibly man-made, cool to think about either way. They could be man-made, and you know what something else would be a plot twist is that those UFOs that are man-made were from alien technology. Because there's so many people that have had UFO sightings, and they could be humans in the future, possibly too, the extraterrestrials. The extraterrestrials could be things from another time, from a long from now, and they came here, or it's some other type of planet. I mean, or from another planet or another dimension. There's theories that the UFOs are from another universe. Like Einstein talked about this theory of this wormhole, and that is where these things are coming from to our dimension. So that is another possibility that has been discussed before. Human UFOs made from alien UFOs. I know. Yeah. And I think that they could be time travelers. Could be a couple different things. There's also theories of they're fallen angels. That's another theory about them. And I do think there are fake sightings. I do believe there are ones that aren't really real. I do think there are crafts that we have. But overall, I do think there's something else out there. And there's so many planets and there's so many stars and things out there. I think there's something out there. And there's people that had UFO encounters that are very traumatic. And I don't want to just say these people didn't really experience that. So that's why I think with these UFOs and these aliens that they are absolutely 100% something we can't completely explain. They go with speeds that we can't go. So yes, I do believe they're in the oceans, and I believe that they're in space, and they've been here for a long time coming here. I don't think we are alone in this universe. And I think that the government has hid and concealed information about UFOs and aliens for a very long time. And they're not telling us everything. And there's the reptilians I want to tell y'all about. And the reptilians are very demonic, in my opinion. They seem to be in another dimension, and they absorb the human suffering that happens. And they like the adrenochrome, which is from humans and kids, and it's like a chemical that comes out. And a lot of these elites, in my opinion, from Hollywood and the Epstein Island type people are spiritually connected and appeasing them by absorbing the blood, doing the blood rituals. Back in the ancient past, there are people that did blood rituals and sacrifices, and there's people that were in the occult doing that now. Jesus said if anyone would hurt a child, it's better for them to be thrown to the lake. Oh, thank you, Jellyfish, for your take on that. And I am not an engineer or from that field to know, but they seem from their readers that it was something going speeds that it was impossible. But regardless of the speed, I do think that it was something that we can't really explain, and it was something unidentified. But yeah, that is something also to take into consideration. I do think there's a way they can read and gauge how fast something's going, even if the camera made something go faster. But that's an interesting concept to think about. And I think, it is extremely true that exaggerations can happen. I believe that people can, you know, exaggerate things, but still, I do think these orbs are coming from somewhere. For instance, there was this incident, there was a lot of orbs and a lot of UFOs that were coming from, drone sightings that happened, and there was these orbs in the sky, and they were fighting the UFO. The drones were fighting the orbs. There were these orbs that are floating, and then this drone comes in, and the drone fills out the sky. So I do think that those orbs can possibly were having a war with the drones during when that stuff was happening. So yeah, there's more than what they're telling us. And there's a type of angel with wheels within wheels called the Ophium, the Onphium or something. And that is what I think, in my opinion, about that is with the, it's an angel that has wheels within wheels, and it looks like a star. And I've seen a UFO before. Myself. All right, Fisher says, who do you think are reptilians? I do think it's possible that reptilians live among us in human form, or they're shapeshifters. I believe that is true, and I believe... hello, Tone. We're talking about theology and alien stuff. That's what we're talking about. So, I think the reptilians are definitely, like Epstein, seems like the Clintons, and everybody that's involved in the Hollywood, either through magic, some sorcery, or we're always like that, are connected with reptilians somehow. And there was these fallen entities that existed that mixed with humans, and I do think royal bloodlines could possess ties to those things. And all people in general might be related to the Nephilims, but yeah, so those are people I think that are having to do with the reptilians. Because it's just, some people just don't seem human from what I have observed. And I usually, and just from what I've seen with these Epstein files coming out, what I've seen from all these different things happening, there's no way that these people are human. And I will certainly be open to believing all kinds of different theories. Yeah. Exactly, Fisher. I believe that, I definitely give credit to these theories because of what's happened. Now, there was a time where there was a ball. There is this movie that came out about the occults, and the guy that made it was killed. We'll delete it. '89. I don't know I don't really off the top of my head know about that. A cyclist. Yeah, that's what he said. A cyclist. I think you're talking about... I was a cyclist quite often growing up. I like riding the bikes. I think it's a fun activity to do. '89. I get it now. Okay, and Jellyfish says, I think reptilian theory is kind of sketchy. I think it comes from an impulse to separate humanity of people and behavior we don't accept related to reptilian theory. Also has anti-Semitic roots. Right. And I don't know any correlation with anti-Semitic roots exactly. That is kind of... it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism exactly. But I will say that people who are doing things like this are connected with certain spiritualities. Like Aleister Crowley, for instance. He was into these dark occultic spiritual practices, and it originates to these entities that he appeased, right? And these entities we believe are the reptilians. And also what happened is, I think, in ancient civilizations, they did sacrifices and they did all kind of things with, beings from other worlds that came here and sacrificed people like that. So I do think that it originates from those evil creatures, because in mythology they talk about god beings being like reptiles. And yeah, I don't think that all Jewish people are bad. It has nothing to do with them. I mean, it's whoever people are doing these type of activities, usually a lot of these elites, those I'm not a big fan of, and I believe are connected with reptilians. So yeah, it's nothing to do with Jewish people, no. But it has to do with certain people that are a part of these elite groups that we're speaking of specifically, that are engaging in these type of practices, right? These occultic ritual practices that we're talking about. And for instance, you had people that were descendants of gods from mythologies, and those gods were, their offspring ruled the earth. So those were the reptilians, their descendants. But it may not be true at all. And it could be a spiritual thing or a metaphorical thing or completely made up. I understand. But this is the theory that I've recently explored because of all this stuff that's come out. Like, I don't think Epstein was a good person, no matter what his connecting. I think that universally can be agreed on that he was bad. And anybody that was on that island or did anything with him was probably in on it. And, I think a lot of these people that say they're innocent and didn't do anything wrong were probably up to something. So that is my opinion about it. But as I said, maybe it's not true, but I'm definitely looking into the theory and considering it. And Tone said, I heard of whistleblowers that said reptilians live underground and made a deal with elites not to come out around if they are fed children. I believe it, Tone. I certainly believe it. At this point, I just watched Independence Day tonight. Well, 89, you're in for one, because definitely that's something that's probably going to be going on from what I'm seeing. And there's a website called aliens.gov. Aliens.gov is this website from the Guberman. And he was... it's a website that's dedicated to showing people aliens and talking about alien extraterrestrials. And that's allegedly going to be the disclosure we're going to get. But people are going to be disappointed that, salute to you, Brig, as well. People are going to be disappointed with these type of... We hope we're not disappointed about the UFO theories. And that they actually come out with serious disclosure. Brain, you are correct. Shout the Brig. Skunks are out tonight. There used to be skunks where I am like 100 years ago, but they did this fur trade thing and they're not here anymore. But there's allegedly sightings 30 to 40 years ago of skunks, so they may still exist where I am. And Brain said, yeah, they created these ancient groups and backdate history like that. Right. So as I said, the reptilian theory is not tied to any group or race or religion. It's just tied to people that follow an occultic practice that might be descendants of something, or people themselves in human form. Like there might be literal aliens, lizard reptiles in human form. And Bud Morgan says vampires real or fantasy. Bud Morgan, I think they're real. I think they're very real. Now, that one, the vampire, is from centuries ago, from countless centuries. There is this time period for countless centuries where they had these blood-sucking creatures that existed in the world. And just like, and I believe they're connected to reptilians, right? Oh, Jellyfish. I love Nosferatu. That's an amazing movie. I've seen the one from 79 and the one from the 1920s. But yes, I believe the vampires are real. And let's just, say like these people that were either some sort of reptilian or a race of people that were some sort of demonic of some kind, or half the hybrid people that we talked about. I think that those are real. And the people that are the elites and those people that are involved with that are the vampires of the vampires of today, because the adrenochrome that is harvested makes them younger, like the fountain of youth, and that's what that is. Ellen DeGeneres, those people, I think Nicole Kidman, these people allegedly drinking the blood, that's a modern day vampires. Now, in the past, I believe the vampires are real. Now, I'll tell you this scientifically, it was a myth that people, thought were vampires because in Transylvania, they buried their dead. They had their long nails and they looked like vampires. And sometimes, allegedly, they dig up people and they had blood all over their face, like they drink someone's blood. And some of them looked very young looking, or some of them looked alive. So that is why, I definitely think that they're real. If AI is a vampire brain. Now, there were theories that the Nosferatu movie had anti-Semitic undertones to it, allegedly, the way it was depicted, but I don't necessarily think that was intended to be anti-Semitic, because the person that made it was Jewish. One of the people were Jewish. So, but they were thinking, allegedly, some people theorized that one could have had anti-Semitic undertones or propaganda to it. But that was kind of before the Nazi Party took over, and it was just some creative old German expressionist film. But yeah, the vampire from Nosferatu, from the original one, is not accurate how the real Dracula looked, but it was still, I think, one of the best ones. But the Nosferatu movie, although he was different looking, I think that was a pretty cool concept what they did there. Blindside is cool, yeah. Oh yeah, thanks chat. All right, Bud Morgan said, I have the sleep paralysis 3 times. Incubus or succubus is terrible. Yes, the incubuses or succubuses are like vampires, and they drain your energy. Yes. And that's also metaphorical and literal, too. And Jellyfish's vampire phenomenon has arose in communities with Balkan Romanian immigrants. It coincides with tuberculosis and outbreaks. Ah, okay, thank you. Yeah. And another thing that it is about the plague, it was also developed from the Black Plague, where they would go and that the vampires spread the plague throughout Europe, and they bring disease and parasites to a country or a land. That is another thing about them that was talked about. But yeah, the Romani people, they were, vampires were stuck and they had this, they live during, they're sleeping during the day, and they thrive at night. Like, I'm basically like a vampire because, I don't feast on humans as much. Scared. I don't bite as much. Scared. Anyway, but yeah, I definitely am a night owl, and that is true. Brain. Abraham Lincoln fought vampires in that one movie. That was pretty cool. Good. I saw that movie. That was a good movie. So yeah, it does come from them, from the Eastern Europe people. And people would, for instance, some people were claiming to see vampires in their room, and there are some murders that happened, and there's people with blood on them, and they checked the graves, and apparently they had blood on their face. So that's why they think it was the vampires are real, and they put a stake in their heart to stop it. Yeah, it is. There's a clip of Jay-Z with wine glass of what looked like blood. Consistency was too thick to be wine. Ah, yep. Jay-Z and Weinstein were doing some creepy things. Yep. Okay, Lola. Hello there. Welcome to the stream. Now, there's there's this dark ritual movie that was out many years ago, and the creator of it got killed. And there's a theory that he was the one that was exposing it. And it was like kind of like a ritualistic, occultic thing that they were doing. Jellyfish, that just means that there are vampires in training. That's what that means. Getting close. They're not quite there yet, but they have the training of becoming vampires. Scared. All right. So, and there was a ball that happened where there's conspiracies about a Rothschild ball that happened. And again, not against Jewish people. This is just a banking family that's known in these conspiracy theories, but nothing against Jews specifically. And there is a ball that they had with a masquerade. It was that they had with people wearing different masks, and for a party. Now, there are theories at that party. There are some nefarious things that took place that was documented in a movie. And the person that did the movie got assassinated. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that apparently did happen, and there's more to these things than meets the eye, I think. Yes, Jellyfish, you're a vampire in training. Yep. I'm a vampire myself. I'm not the kind of vampire that the other ones are. I'm a Temu vampire. And my O negative blood type is popular vampirism. Oh yeah, oh yes, that is true, bud. That is true. And Jellyfish said some of the thin things could be classical satanic panic of Reagan era. What if the satanic panic was actually true? It seems with all stuff going on with Hollywood and Epstein, it may have been true. They have been right. And there were satanic heavy metal, black metal bands in Scandinavia, and one of them burned churches down in Norway. So I do think that there was some truth to it. May have been some exaggeration, but maybe there's some truth to it. Like, they had a theory that communists were trying to infiltrate the country, and it looks like there could have been some truth to that. So, and it may, people could not believe in it. They don't have to. But I just see in my life, a lot of conspiracy theories later seem like they came true. But, we'll see. Time will tell, as they say. And there are many people that documented these different UFO experiences and their accounts with the reptilians and stuff. They may not be true. Some things may be made up, but at this point, I'm open to pretty much anything at this point. Brig, you missed Claude. Yeah, he was in the beginning. And we are in a different part of the garden. We're not in the part we are in. We're in a different part. Okay, Jellyfish says, like those moms that thought Harry Potter was making their kids Satanist for thinking about sorcery. Oh yeah, Jellyfish. I agree with you on that one. I had a friend that was into, he became a Christian, but he was into some dark, witchcraft stuff at one point, and he told me Harry Potter is a silly book. So I do think there are some things that are not satanic or evil, but people got exaggerated and thought. I do agree with you. There are some things that are just perfectly fine, that are just fiction that people are going to get upset over. Now, I will say this, is that some people I've noticed did get into witchcraft and sorcery for real that watched Harry Potter. It could have been like a gateway drug, so to speak. But I still don't think Harry Potter on its own had anything to do with that. Like, I am a zealous Christian, and I didn't become like that, and I like Harry Potter. So I do agree with you. Definitely. Oh, yeah. This was my great-grandfather's garden, by the way. And the astronauts' next launch merely doing a lap around the moon and coming back. Okay. And what do I think about the Etsy spell phenomenon? Oh, I'm not completely aware of that, but I am aware of what you're talking about to an extent, and I think it's quite phenomenal indeed. And Etsy seems pretty popular and gaining lots of attention. So I think it is quite an interesting and kind of humorous thing, in my opinion, from what I know. Lap around the moon with the moon base already on it to scout premeditated moon base. All right. And okay, Bud Morgan, a lady in China prayed to a statue of Buddha for 10 years, and then someone finally told her it wasn't a statue of Buddha. It was actually a shark toy or a shirk toy. Okay. Oh, Lord. Scared. And Nyan Cat Noodles says, paganism is mostly chill except the weird sacrifice evil side. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Nyan, one of my closest mods, one of my good friends, is a pagan, and she's into nature and the earth and treating people kindly and nicely. So I agree with you that paganism, forms of paganism that are not like this creepy stuff I'm talking about is completely fine and chill and just about, observing nature and stuff. Like the ancient Celtic people or, things like that. So definitely with paganism, I think with the sacrificing stuff and the occultism is from evil, from darkness. But you're talking about more of a righteous behavior, which I think is fine. Our Lord and Savior is Shrek. Oh, I see what you're saying. It was a Shrek toy. Oh my goodness. Bud Morgan. Okay. A lady in China prayed to a statue of Buddha for over 10 years, and someone finally told her it wasn't a statue of Buddha, it was actually a Shrek toy. That is so messed up. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and our Lord and Savior is Shrek. Yes. Shrek is love and life. Shrek is the hero, our hero. My favorite is the guy put Obi-Wan portrait of Jesus picture, and she didn't notice. Oh, yeah, yeah. You see, that is the point about idolatry, not worshiping images or statues. You know, that's the whole point. That's why God didn't want people doing that. No, it's okay to have statues or images or crosses for devotion purposes, but not to worship an object like an idol. Yeah. Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan is Christ's appearance. Yes, and I believe that Obi-Wan was in a Christ movie. I think he was Jesus in a movie, if I'm not mistaken. And he definitely fits that role very well. Ignorance is bliss. Very well said. I agree. I'm still cracked up about the Shrek thing. I'm like joked out over here over the Shrek worshiping Shrek for 10 years. That's so messed up, but funny at the same time. Okay, so with Jesus, there's a movie called Heaven is for Real, and there's a Jesus depiction of him, and he appears as like a Mediterranean person. His skin isn't like brown, but it's like he's like he's like white, but he's like, you know, Middle Eastern, Mediterranean looking. He doesn't like look like a Northern European. If that makes any sense. There's a movie called Heaven is for Real, and the person was, you know, this boy saw heaven and he saw Jesus and described what he looked like, and he saw relatives and people that he never even would have known about. And then what happened was this girl that painted Jesus matched the person he saw, and it seems to match the Shroud of Turin and a bunch of other things. So with Jesus, I believe that is Jesus' true picture, in my opinion. And yeah, he doesn't look like a European, and he looks like he's Mediterranean or Middle Eastern looking. Yeah, he doesn't. So that's accurate. And he did have a beard, though. He did have a big beard. He was in modern day Israel, Palestine, whatever you want to call it. He was from that region. And let's see. Jellyfish says, when Europe spread Christianity to Japan, their art naturally painted him as a imperial in Japan looking emperor. Exactly. You are absolutely correct. And there are people Jesus was black, people believe Jesus was Mexican. Every race made Jesus look like their own. I mean, Jesus died in our interpretation for all of humanity. Some people think he was a prophet for all of humanity, but Jesus was for all the whole world. So people are going to depict him from their own civilizations. But he was from the Middle East, from Israel, Palestine region. So yes, and Christianity did spread to Japan, and that's how it was depicted. Absolutely. All right. And we are still going to talk about this. I am going to go to the other spot, and it's going to be dark for a second, but I'm going to be back in a moment. Jesus is a true American, yeah. So it's going to, for a moment, be dark, but we are going to be back in a second, and you'll be able to see me. Okay, I am here. Let's go this way. Let's see me better. All right, I am here. I am back. All right, this is me. Hello, and going to put this charger like so. Okay. All right. So, yeah, talking about. Yeah, so basically, different places will think of Jesus in different ways. Now, I think, in my opinion, there are, let's see, definitely Savior, and favorite one is from Obi-Wan Portrait. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so different civilizations will see and think of Jesus in different ways. And there are many different civilizations that will. Jesus had epic mullet. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That is a good observation. Okay, now I'm going to show you all something here. All right, let's go this way. We're going to go to this picture. Okay, so apparently this is a depiction of Jesus right here. All right, so this girl that painted Jesus, this is allegedly what he looks like, right? He seems more, thicker eyebrows, something more Mediterranean than, or Middle Eastern than something from Europe. Yes, that's apparently what he looks like. And he was, and every civilization is going to depict Jesus in different ways. And hilarious. So that is what happened with, Jesus. Every civilization. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh hair. Yeah. Yeah, his hair does look like that. So, yeah, and she had like an experience where she saw him, and his other kid, saw him too. And he matches the Shroud of Turin, and let's see a comparison between the Shroud of Turin. Going this way, yeah. So now I'm on the computer where I could do these things. So this is the Shroud of Turin matching with that Jesus picture I showed you. So this would be alleged evidence that Jesus, that's kind of what he would look like. All right. So next is Skinny Bob. All right, Jellyfish, this is Skinny Bob. Wait, there's a stupid thing on the screen. Let's see. Anyway. It blinks, it moves around, this was taken, many, long time ago from the Soviets. I do believe that's probably J-Rod. So yeah, that is a depiction of one of the the Greys, as we call them, and it could be one of the other ones, but like the Ebians, but that's Skinny Bob, and it's believed to perhaps be the same person as J Rod that we spoke about. An AI depiction of Jesus. Let's see. No, that one's from the Council of Five. Oh, okay. Thank you, Zumi. Okay, so, all right, this is an AI. This is an AI depiction of Jesus, right here. There you go. Yeah, I know. They gave blue eyes to Jesus. Yeah. Now there are people in that part of the world that do have blue eyes in the Middle East. They can have that, but it seems like the depiction from the one that I was showing, the original one, is that he had like green eyes or some kind of like, yeah, something like that. But yeah, the blue eye. Yeah, this is the probably the European version of Jesus. All right, and let's see Japanese Jesus. It's a very evangelical depiction. Yeah. Yeah, the Yu-Gi-Oh hair type Jesus. I'll show it again. All right. This is allegedly a real picture of him that was painted by a girl that had a vision of him that seems to match the different depictions of him. So this is a version of him apparently, right? And I mean it's hard to see, but he has like greenish eyes there. And it matches the Stradatorin too. Right. And AI Jesus over here is like a Viking European version of Jesus, and he has his blue eyes. Native American Jesus. All right, well, I was gonna go to Japanese Jesus. All right. There's Japanese Jesus. There is Mary and Jesus from Japan. Ah, okay, Brig. Okay, understood. All right, here's another Japanese Jesus. Right here. And Native American Jesus is on its way. All right. Okay. Here we go. Native American Jesus. Okay, let's see Gray Alien Jesus. There you go. Oh, Zoomy, that's an interesting take. Thank you. Thank you. That's funny, a Turbro. Okay, Chris Ann. Thank you for coming, Chris Ann. And it is late over there. And good night to you. Thank you for coming. Leslie, the reason why they're creepy is, like this one, for instance, right here. It's a gray alien. Oh, thank you, Chris Ann. Thank you for subbing. But no, you see, you gotta understand, there are different type. Leslie, there are different types of aliens, and this one right here isn't necessarily bad. I mean, it doesn't mean they're necessarily bad. Some of the grays and aliens are bad, but I'll get you Nordic Jesus in a moment. And there are Nordic aliens that look like us, and I'm sure there are aliens that resemble us that aren't creepy looking, but some of them are just quite different than what we look like. Okay, let's go to Nordic Jesus. Okay, oh, there you go. All right, there's Nordic Jesus. That's the results for Nordic Jesus. The alien with the cross was supposed to make humanity worship the Dark Ones. Okay, interesting. Alien skin, gray, it's cream color like humans. Hello, Raven. We're looking at different depictions of Jesus. I think regardless of Christianity being real or not, I think Jesus was probably at least a real human that lived. I agree. I agree. Definitely. This man's a Crocodile Dundee Jesus. Yeah, dope dude indeed. All right, here's another depiction of Nordic Jesus. And that's him as a Viking warrior. All right. And let's see. I glitched. I mean, I accidentally swiped something. So that's what happened. Let's see. Okay. And let's see. Biker gang. All right. Biker gang Jesus. All right. And let's see. Here is Gangster Jesus. Gangster Jesus. More Gangster Jesus. Right there. Muppet Jesus. Imagine they rolling through town with motorcycles weren't even invented yet. Yeah. This is interesting. There you go. The right there. I gotta show this one. Yeah. Yeah, C's for Christ, right? Special Ops Jesus. Yes, the bike game would be called The Cross. That's true. And this is the returning Jesus. This is the returning Jesus. Hey there. Okay, Jellyfish, thank you for coming. I enjoyed our conversation. Take care. Good night. Have a good one. Hey, UAP, we have been looking at the talking about theology and talking about some extraterrestrials and conspiracy theories. Now, Brig, I'm about to get into the cryptids. All right? I'm about to get into the cryptids. All right. Olympics athlete Jesus. All right. And yeah, the cryptids. Let's see. All right. Okay, and next one is going to be here. All right, I'm going to do that one right now. Let's see. Okay, it's coming up. Like this one. And these. And that one. Those are pretty cool. Okay, Zoomy, that sounds like a cool movie to see. It's a cool movie to see. All right. So I'm going to be talking about the cryptids. Okay, Canada is home to a diverse array of cryptids, the Ugopugo being perhaps its most famous inhabitant, residing in British Columbia's Okanagan Lake. This lake monster is often described as a multi-humped serpentine beast with head of a horse or a snake. So, do you want to hear a conspiracy theory that will blow your? Yeah, tell me the conspiracy theory about Charlie Kirk. I'm interested to hear. Yeah, go for it. And Ugapugo being perhaps its most famous inhabitant, residing in British Columbia, Okanagan Lake. This monster is often described. Okay, Keith, interesting. Okay. And this often describes a multi humped serpentine beast that, with the head of the horse snake, known as the Silex First Nations of Na'aitik, translated from the revered spiritual entity into a modern day tourist attraction, even being declared as an endangered species by the Greenpeace to prevent its capture. In the dense forest of the north celestial regions, Wendigo remains a chilling figure in Algonquin forest and folklore. It is portrayed as a cannibalistic creature that grows the size of every victim and consumes, serving as a grim embodiment of greed excess. This spirit is said to possess humans who succumb to gluttony, selfishness, and transforming them into skeletal and stable monsters that haunt the winter wilderness. Reasoning behind is that the first thing you see when the shot goes off, the sound is too close to the audio or to be a sniper. Then his shirt, where it's put at, puffs up like if you're wearing your okay. Because the first thing you see when it goes off is it sounds like too close in the audio and the sniper. Then his shirt where it puffs up first, and you're wearing your okay, your cross leaning forward lines directly to where it hits. Then you also see a cross whip around his neck. Okay, I see what you're saying. And I definitely think with the Charlie Kirk thing that definitely there's conspiracy theories around the murder. I mean, the assassination. That I do think it was as under suspicious circumstances. Yeah, and Brig doesn't understand. Yeah, I just see. Keith says, and Candace Owens has the footage behind, and says it too that this cross is in the footage. You're saying, oh, okay, so it hit the mic instead of the cross. Okay, I'll see what Candace Owens has about that. Interesting. Okay, so behind it, and first thing, a shot goes off, sound close audio, and forward directly. Okay. Yeah, so people think it's the mic, but it's actually a cross. Okay. Yeah, I've not looked at the footage in a while, but I haven't looked at it very, very closely to really look at those details. So I'll certainly check that out. Okay, thank you. And Candace has a lot of information on that. And Bud Morgan, some cryptids are the life of the party, and some are the party of the poopers. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mhm. It's shot from his cross, though. I have footage from the day that's still up close. Needed. I saved it back then because I didn't believe it on the day. Okay. Well, yeah, definitely there's a lot of different foes and things documented about it. And I see what you're saying. Sometimes you have to look at the fine print and kind of look much closer up for something to be, you know, shown if accurate or not. Right. And the deep within the urban landscapes of Ontario, the Toronto Tunnel Monster represents a modern mystery reported in 1978 by a local man searching for a lost cat, and the small, hairy, monkey-like creature was allegedly seen living in its labyrinth underground sewer. And some think these sightings is the Mani Gishi, small humanoid spirits from indigenous lore that were said to be living amongst the waters behind the city. I've never heard of the Craigslist cryptid. I'm sure it's terrifying. All right. Keith says it gets worse though because he left it in the bathroom with his wedding ring the night before. His wife tells us also who had been in there wanting to plan it. Yeah. I don't know everything about who was involved and who wasn't involved, although there's many different theories. But yeah, I definitely think there's outside forces that wanted him taken out. Besides the Tyler Robinson. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Quebec also boasts that the aquatic mystery with meth mystery with Mephir, the long-necked serpent, said that it inhabited the lake. Sightings of the creature date back to the early 1800s. Witnesses describing a dark, sleek animal reaching up to 30 feet in length, much like the cousin of Oga Poga. Mephir has come culturally in 1800s. Witnesses describe the dark, sleek animal reaching up to 30 feet in length, much like its cousin, the Ugaboga, became cultural icon and region and the bridge the gap between historical sightings and local legends. Four arms and four legs. It's their arms and legs depending how you look at it. Yeah. Shout out the chat. A German cryptid. This looks kind of crazy. This is a German cryptid. It's a bunny with antlers and wings, and like bird wings. The Walper Tiger is arguably the Germany's most iconic cryptid, a bizarre hybrid animal said to dwell within the alpine forest of Bavaria. It's famously described as a gestalt creature, often possessing the body of a rabbit or squirrel, the antlers of the deer, and the wings of the pheasant, and sharp fangs. While no two Walper tigers are said to look exactly alike due to varied animal parts, they are generally characterized as shy herbivores, creatures that feast on roots and herbs found in the tranquil woodlands and habitat. Origins and legend are as much of a part of Bavarian culture as the creature itself. While woodcuts of similar horned rabbits date to the 17th century, possibly inspired by rabbits with a Shoplama virus, modern Walper tigers gained fame in 1800s. During this time, mischievous taxidermists began stitching together parts of different animals to create a mutant hybrids. They sold these elaborate creatures to gullible tourists, evidence of the region's unique local wildlife. Practices that continue today with stuffed replicas often displayed in inns and shops. The jackalope. Okay. Yeah, ligers are very cool. And God, unlike methods to capture sprinkling salt. Okay, according to local lore, catching sight of a Walper tiger is nearly impossible unless specific conditions are met. It is said that these elusive beasts only reveal themselves to be beautiful, honorable women. During a full moon, even then, only is accompanied by the right man who knows the secret clearing of the forest. For those not lucky enough to find a guide, other folklore suggests more practical, if unlikely, methods for capture, sprinkling salt on its tail or luring it into a sack using a candle and spade. A liger is a hybrid offspring of a male lion and a female tiger. That's a liger right there. And the page is going to do its thing. Male lions possess a growth promoting genes and pride setting. A father wants his offspring to be the biggest and the strongest to survive. The missing off switch in female lions have evolved to growth inhibiting genes to get their cubs at a manageable size for birth, resource sharing. However, female tigers do not have these specific inhibiting genes because their mating seasons are different. Without the mother off switch, the liger continues to grow until it reaches a colossal size, sometimes weighing up to over 900 pounds and standing nearly 12 feet tall on its hind legs. Typically have a lion-like tawny coat with faint ghost-like stripes inherited by their mother. Oh, thank you, Sawgirl. Glad that you like it. Thank you. Love water. Unlike most lions, ligers are generally skilled and enthusiastic. Swimmers, a trait that gets their tiger side. Captivity only. Ligers do not exist in the wild because lions mostly in Africa and tigers mostly in Asia do not naturally encounter each other. Yeah, see you tomorrow, Saw Girl. Appreciate you very much. Have a good night. That is true. That is true, bud. Donkeys are half horse. No, one. Yeah, 1 second horse and yeah, one half horse and one half mule. They're half horse, half mule. Yeah. Mm. Unlike solitary tigers, ligers often inherit social, docile nature of lions. Love of the water. Unlike most lions, the ligers are generally skilled and enthusiastic swimmers, a trait they get from their tiger side. Captivity. Only ligers do not exist in the wild because mostly Africa and tigers, mostly in Asia, do not naturally incur with each other. Liger versus a tigon. The order of the parents matter. While liger has a lion father and a tigon has an offspring of a male tiger and a female lion, tigons are much smaller than ligers and smaller than their parents because they inherit growth inhabiting genes from the lioness mother, but do not receive the same aggressive growth from the father. Yes, Al Gore is a cryptid. That's true. Okay, Chad. That sounds cool. All right. And goats were the second domesticated animal after dogs. I believe it. You know, my grandpa had goats growing up, and he was, goat milk tastes pretty good. It tastes more like milk than milk itself. Yeah, that is true. Pigs are pretty domesticated. Yeah. Despite its whimsical appearance, the okay, let's just gonna see this. All right, so we're gonna talk about another cryptid. The Kappa is one of Japan's most famous and complex cryptids, a water-dwelling creature. They grow tusks in the wild. Okay, okay. I didn't know they could become that feral. And Kappa is one of Japan's most famous complex cryptids, of water-dwelling creature that has haunted the country's rivers and lakes for centuries, typically described as being about the size of a human child. The Kappa has reptilian scaly skin, webbed hands and feet, and a turtle-like shell on its back. Its most distinctive feature is a fluid-filled depression or disc on the top of its head, which is the source of the supernatural strength and life force. Thank you, Brig, for keeping chat in check. Yeah. The Kappa. Ancient folklore. The Kappa was terrified figure blamed for drowning and attacks on livestock. Was particularly feared for its alleged obsession with the Shirkodama, a mythical organ located in the human anus that supposedly contained the soul. Wow, that is hilarious. Legends warn that the Kappa will drag swimmers underground to extract its organs, making them a common cautionary tale used to keep children away from their dangerous or deep waters. Turtles used to be 15 to 20 feet diameter, find preferred shell in river banks. Wow, that is big. Yeah, that's huge. Despite the dark reputation, Akampa is also known for being fiercely honorable and strangely polite. A common way to defeat one on land is to bow deeply to it. Akampa, bound by its sense of equity, will feel compelled to bow back. When it does, the water in its head dish spills out, causing it to lose its power and become temporarily paralyzed. If the human refilled the dish, the Kappa would reportedly become loyal friend or helper for life, often sharing its vast knowledge, medicine, and bone settings. All right, let's see. Hilarious. Hilarious, bud. Yeah, I like that one. Hey, Briggs says, I have to get going for work. Have a great day, night, everyone. Okay. All right. Now, let's we'll continue that part tomorrow. All right. Yeah, I actually got to go myself, and there's something I got to do in the morning, so I got to do that too. And we got 1,400 views tonight. All right. So I just want to say, shout out to Brig, everybody. I'm gonna be going myself, and Bud, it's been really nice talking to you, Bud Morgan. I appreciate you. It's been nice hanging out with you in chat, and peace.